This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm going to direct my questions to Mr. Stanton through you, Madam Chair. You spoke in relation to the issues concerning Member of Parliament Michael Chong, that in the case of the Minister of Public Safety and senior officials in his office, that with respect to the sensitive email that had been sent in May of 2021, that they didn't have the login information and couldn't access the email. Now, Minister Blair was the minister for 18 months as of May of 2021. What does that say about the machinery of government that a minister who was in place for 18 months didn't have access to emails? Emails were being sent. CSIS was continuing to send those emails, and they were effectively going into a black hole. That doesn't seem to add up.
Well, that's exact. I mean, what inference we want to draw from that is you have all this sensitive reporting that is going into the system, which, and I'm quoting from the rapporteur's findings, that it's basically bobbing on a digital sea in computers. Maybe I'm being a little harsh, but it seems that there is a dearth of briefing up that's going on that you would expect with various departments would be done. Also sounds like a predilection for digital copies, and that, you know, hard copy briefings are kind of passé, and I think there's advantages actually in hard copy. But it does sound to me like CSIS is putting in these very sensitive reports, and there are these glitches and gaps, and they probably didn't start, you know, last year, that needed to be rectified so that that critical information would go at least the cabinet minister level to make his decision. So I have no idea why. It just strikes me as dysfunctional.
But ultimately, Madam Chair, through you, ultimately, what does that say about ministerial responsibility? I mean, ultimately, who bears responsibility? A minister is in place for 18 months.
Yeah.
The Minister of Public Safety, we have an email on a matter as critical as an accredited diplomat threatening and targeting a sitting member of Parliament, and the minister doesn't know about it because he doesn't have access.
Yeah. You know, just touching on a point that Mr. Wyszynski had mentioned, he talked about the rigorous review on the collection side. CSIS, CSE, CAF, others are subject to on an annual basis in terms of their performance and compliance with policy and that. I am suggesting that on the policymaker side, the machinery of government, we don't have the same type of review or accountability. It should be ministerial accountability. I think that's part of the bedrock of our parliamentary system, is where every department is responsible, and you would think there's mechanisms for briefing up, particularly in security and intelligence, such that you don't actually have to have a particular passcode to read a particular message to factor that into your decision making on something as critical as a threat to the members of Parliament.
Well, Madam Chair, through you to Mr. Stanton, after CSIS had sent that email in May, and it went into a black hole, and the minister didn't know, even though he had been minister for 18 months, CSIS then tries to, again, alert the minister, other departments, the PCO, when they prepared the July 2021 memo. And that went to the PCO, it went to the Prime Minister's National Security Advisor, and yet apparently the Prime Minister didn't learn about that. Does that sound believable to you? And if the Prime Minister is in fact saying he had no idea, I mean, what does that say about the information flows and structures that he has in place to be briefed and be alerted to critical national security information?
I mean, it's not inspiring. The thing to appreciate is, we talk about threat-related, and in this context, of course, the Member of Parliament. You know, a lot of threat-related intelligence, whether it's dealing with terrorism or espionage or things like that, they're already as a drill, they're already as performance. They don't wait for CSIS to send assessments into that email system. So this would go in as an assessment piece on the foreign intelligence threat with all sorts of other information that probably goes in on a routine basis. And I've heard it said in the public, they say, well, why doesn't CSIS call, or why doesn't CSIS hint, there's something in there? And what we don't want to have with security intelligence is where the agencies are shaping the narrative or saying to the policymakers, here, you must read that. So what I'm saying is I don't think that report went in to the system and that either the producers, CSIS, thought, okay, this needs immediate attention. It just goes in as a routine process on that. And I do find it disheartening because I spent, 32 years in the business where you collect information, considerable risk and expense, producing intelligence reports, and so you like to think that somebody read them or found them interesting. But perhaps what this initial review is revealing is those gaps are more significant than maybe we appreciated if reports are just floating around the system.
Yes, I'll give you.
Thanks very much. Just to add, I think it's really important to understand that both within the Department of Public Safety, where Minister Blair was the accountable minister, and again, I also agree with the concept of ministerial accountability, that there are structures. There is a branch responsible for national security that does receive regular, information and intelligence from CSIS and other agencies. It's the Deputy Minister of Public Safety that determines how much and what goes to ministers. As I mentioned in my opening statement, there's a massive volume that comes out every single day of intelligence products and assessments. Having a more robust engagement with clients like ministers, like deputies, so that the producers of intelligence better understand their needs and what needs to be brought to them urgently is something that is still weak in the government system and needs to be addressed.
Since November 7th, we've been concerned, and we've been trying through every means to shed light on this matter. And when I hear you say that there is no justification not to have a public independent investigation, when I hear everything that's already been done, when I hear that it's been over 30 years that you've been working in this field, my question is this. Why, you said it yourselves, why do we not have an independent public investigation at this point? Why do you think?
Well, I can't answer the reason why, but I do feel it's very, very important. I feel there's increasing distrust in Canada in terms of our democratic institutions. And look, I was at the other committee on the 10th of April, and if you would have asked me then, I would have said, no, we don't need a public inquiry. I don't think it's necessary, and I come in with all sorts of security reasons for it. But since then, there's been so much reporting, and even assuming a percentage of the reporting has some truth, I'm usually not someone who believes in either conspiracy theories or I'll always give someone the benefit of the doubt. I keep thinking there may still be some negligence. I think maybe there is, but I think Canadians are increasingly wondering what's going on. And I think, and that's why I am. I want a public inquiry because I want Canadians to regain that trust in their institutions. And I'm sad about that. When I had a performance agreement as an executive manager in the service, our first priority that we had to sign off on was the protection of Canada's democratic institutions and processes. That was it, and we were evaluated on that. And all I've been hearing the last couple of years is how Canadians are increasingly becoming less and less trusting in their system, and that's why I want an inquiry.